It is saying that we are now live. So before we get into our amazing conversation, before I introduce, I introduce you, Sue, every bloody person knows who you are now and what you're doing.
I don't know, hopefully.
Yes. Well, if they don't, then they will by the time we've finished our convo.
Yeah, let's hope. Yeah.
Yes. So, good morning, everybody. I hope everyone is having a very nice day, even though it's pretty, I don't know about where you are, but it's wet.
Grim.
A bit windy, very foggy here in Bournemouth. What about where you're at?
No, it's just grey and dull. And yeah, I can't, because I always sit in front of my windows, but I have to pull my blinds, like my curtains behind me, so you can't see out. But it's but it's pretty grim.
Yeah.
Not nice. That's wintry.
Isn't it supposed to be spring vibes right now?
There is, but I don't care. I'm off to Vegas at the weekend. Woo!
Oh, yay. What are you doing there?
Just a break, little holiday. With taking the kids. I had a payout on a horrible injury thing I had ages ago. Had my payout, so we're going off to make memories.
Oh, I love that. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? Memories.
Yeah, I know. It happened. We went in 2014 with the kids when they were 16 and 18, and they couldn't do anything. And I hadn't really, I sort of did think about it before we went, but I didn't realise how much it was going to perhaps bother them that they couldn't do anything. So we're going to take them back. Now they're in their 20s and they can be like free and do whatever they want and go in the casinos and drink and apparently go and do other stuff too.
We don't need to know about that stuff.
No. I don't need to know about that stuff.
No, you don't. The first time I went to Vegas was a business conference. So I go every July usually. This is pre-COVID because everything got scrambled from COVID onwards. But I used to go every July, and it was part of my contractual agreement to go there every July to the show that was there and do my meetings with my distributor partners and stuff. But I've never forget the first time I went. I was just so, I guess, overwhelmed. I was like, how on earth are we supposed to work when there's all of these flashing lights everywhere and everyone's getting drunk come day or night, morning or night? I'm like, how are we supposed to sit and have a, professional conversation when all I want to do is get out in that sun, get in my bikini and have a go at a bit of gambling?
Yeah, I know. And it was really weird. The first time I went, and we stayed in the Mandalay Bay, which is where photograph is.
Same.
And I was gutted because I was there like on family trip. And as I'm walking through like the casino one morning, going out of the hotel, who's walking towards me but like Nick Eridutu? And I was like, just like, no, why are you here? And then it's like, oh no, it's Cosmoprof. Yeah. And I couldn't go. They wouldn't I'd said to the family, like, should I go? And they're like, no, we're on holiday. But I could. I mean, one opportunity I've had to go and I couldn't go.
Yeah, I'd say you're pretty good from what I've seen. You're pretty good with your boundaries. But back then, I think even I'd be like, distracted.
Yeah, please let me go. I know. I was just, I was very keen to go. And especially as it was in my hotel, it did feel wrong not to go.
Yeah. Yeah, because everyone else would have been there for that conference and for that show. You know that, don't you?
Yeah, it was a couple of hard days that I had to resist.
Oh, bless you. So let's talk about the topic of this live, because I know that we have spoken back and forth about podcasts and the power of the podcast.
Yeah,
it's really funny. My daughter, actually, Coco, she came up with the whole name and I loved it. I was like, power of the podcast or power to the podcast. And she said, well, power of the podcast. Whereas I'm old. So I've gone, in my head, I've gone like power to the people. I'm like, how about a play on words? But she didn't know that went.
Over her head.
14. Yeah. That went way over her head. She's like, power to the people. What's that about? And I'm like, before your time.
Just a little bit. Yeah. I don't know. My kids will get that one. I don't know.
Yeah. So I listen to your podcast. I love the conversations. I have a favourite. Am I allowed to share my favourite?
Is that your one?
No, bar mine. Let's just say mine's number one, and a very, very close two. Is with Carl.
Yeah.
Now, I really love what Carl's about, Carl Hinder. I think I'm kind of in the same kind of messaging camp.
Yeah,
that he gives off, which is a little bit, in some ways, a bit savage. It's not for the flaky, it's not for the faint-hearted, but it comes from a place of tough love. So I loved that conversation that you had with Carl and others.
And it was long. It was a long conversation because like Carl and like me and like you, we all like a chat. And I think yours and Carl's episodes are probably like the longest ones. Yeah. But I kind of like to leave them a bit unfiltered and a bit unedited, because otherwise you get breaks, and where people go to and fro on what they're talking about, it's really hard to cut it all out.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, it's going back to that whole message of keeping it real.
Yeah.
Be true to yourself. Don't go out there too practiced, too polished.
No.
People don't buy into that crap anymore. You know, there's too much of it out there that we just want to crave the realness, that human, you know, just tell me that you're going through the same bullshit I'm going through. Just tell me you're going through the same problems I'm going through, and what does it look like the other side? Do we survive it? Do we get through it? You know?
Yeah. I think it's really hard, because I know there are some podcasts that I've listened to that are scripted, and people are reading a script. Oh. And I did try doing that, and I just find it really hard, because I still just go off on tangents anyway. And so now I kind of edit. If I'm doing a solo episode, I just kind of edit it as I go. And if I suddenly like lose the ability to speak, which happens regularly, then I just cut that out as I go, and then I just carry on. And it's just, so even when it's just like a solo episode, it's just me having a conversation with myself, really.
But you're not, because everyone's listening, even those that aren't leaving reviews, that aren't engaging on your content when you're repurposing it. People are listening, just like people are watching.
Yeah.
And actually, what you've just said then before, when you were like, I can't read from a script, I like just to go, you know, that's because you've got all of that knowledge up there. Yeah. You don't need to write it down. You don't need to script it out or role play it out, because it's authentic and it's coming from a real place. And this then takes me back to the whole point of this live, which is, you know, how we all bang on about, I think I'm borderline obsessed with this whole multiple streams of income. And it comes from, because I have had multiple streams of income right back as early 20s. So I don't really know any different. And I'm now trying to say to people, you can really leverage your skills and make money through all the different ways and all the different touch points. And sharing that knowledge and experience via a social audio platform, a podcast channel, it's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it's really funny, because when I started developing the idea, and I did a course with a really wonderful lady called Lindsay Ann Gould, and she kind of talked us through all the tech and how to make it work. And I'm still in her world, and she's just trying to launch a new podcast hosting platform that's specifically for women, because only 11% of podcasters are women. And it's really, really hard as a woman to break through into being a successful podcast. And if you've got a guy at the helm, and whether it's that whole thing of, you know, because I mean, I have to say, I mean, I can be a bit averse to like female voices. And if I'm like with certain female presenters on the radio, I can be a bit like, oh, can't listen to that voice. Yeah. But with a guy, they've got, I don't know, a deeper, more welcoming voice. I don't know what it is, but there's a definite difference. And women as podcasters don't seem to have as much success, which is awful. And even in the salon industry, the podcasts that are out there, there's an awful lot of female podcasters, and like hats off to Adam, because he does an absolutely amazing job with like the beauty. I've got, my brain's gonna come, what it's called now.
I can't, but I know who you mean, and I know.
But Adam's met him at the show for years, and he's got hundreds and hundreds of episodes out there. But it is, and it's a, I don't know, I suppose it's just like it's a different voice, isn't it? And it's just whether or not your voice is one people want to hear when it's audio.
And it's funny because you just dropped that statistic, 11%, you said, yeah?
Yeah.
And in some ways that's like, oh God, that's a bit rubbish. But at the same time, the flip side to that,
the opportunity.
We've always got to see the positive.
Yeah.
Opportunity, space.
Yeah.
Interesting. I did not know.
No, I know. I've they're on my phone somewhere. I went to a webinar that Lindsay did, and she did, and because she's trying to launch this female hosting platform, and she had all these stats on like the demographics of podcasting, and it's really it's frustrating as a woman to be doing this as, you know, as part of what I do, and knowing that it's going to be harder for me to get my voice heard.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't care. I'll just keep plugging away. People either like it or don't.
Well, the thing is as well, from my understanding of podcasts, and I'm due to launch one, you know, anyone in this industry that I've shared that information with knows this, but I haven't pressed the button. And I haven't because I've been doing lots of other things in the background. And sometimes you've got to just give yourself permission to not show up to your own timelines and be okay to go, do you know what? I'm actually going to just push that back. And even though I shared it with the world that it was going to be January and we're now nearly in April and I still haven't done it, I'm okay with that. And I think you just got to out it and be like, there's other stuff going on. Where does it sit in our list of priorities? But what you've just said then with the statistic that Lindsay shared, again, females. So bringing it back to our industry, of course, we've got men doing amazing things in our industry, but we are a predominantly female-led industry sector. And so I really see it, and I see it with social media. You have like these two like realms. You've got the realms of the seasoned professionals. Me and you are in that camp, Sue. We're in that camp. We're highly experienced. We come with a wealth of, years and years and years. I'm 2.5 decades, almost 2.5 decades of, you're probably more, are you?
No, about that. I joined 2000, actually it's my 21st birthday this year.
Oh, wow.
In fact, on Sunday, my first course was the 2nd of April, 2002.
Oh, wow, that's exciting. I hope you share that. I know that you'll share that with your world.
I know, I'd totally forgotten, actually. I'll be flying to Vegas.
Oh, my God. You can be like that. That's how I'm celebrating. Go me. Go me in Vegas. That's what you need to do. But we have all of this information and wealth of knowledge that we accrue over the years. We've got walls upon walls or books upon books of proof with our certificates. We are a bit of a certificate collector, a bit of a magnet with them. And then you've got this new version, the Instagram birth. The Instagram world, the TikTok world, the social media world, where they can just do 1 or 2 courses. Their knowledge and their experience is like this, which is fine because we've all been here before we got there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they just bounce out of these courses and get straight in front of the camera, have no hesitation to go live, can upload a social media audio channel overnight and just share. And sometimes I feel like saying to women who are stopping themselves from sharing their experience on, platforms like podcasts, to like get out of their own way, like stop overthinking the whole thing, because there's women out there that are going to be inspired by your story, that are going to see that they can do it as well by listening to your voice in the car on the way to Tesco's, on the way to the school run. That's when I'm listening to my podcast, when I'm in my car, because I can't be distracted. I can't walk out of a room. If I've got it on this Alexa, then I go into this room and I've got it in the car. I'm going nowhere apart from A to B. And I'm not on emails. I'm not getting phone calls. I'm listening to, very often, your podcasts.
But as well, though, I think that's the beauty of podcasts, is that you can listen for as long as you've got. So if you are on a school run and you've got like 10 minutes to get to school, then, even on the lengthy episodes where there's like you and myself, or there's me and Carl when they go over a bit, you can just press pause and then you come back to it later. And it's one of the reasons, the first time I had a really long episode, I cut it in. Well, sometimes I have to cut it in half because the podcast platform just won't let me load it because it is too long. But the first time I did a longer episode, I cut it in half because I thought, it's just too much information. And then I thought, no, do you know what? Just hit the pause button. That's all you've got to do. Hit the pause button back later. And I do it all the time. I mean, it's funny, actually, since I've moved up to Norfolk, I've kind of stopped listening to them. And I've got this amazing array of podcasts that I've listened to for years. And I just stopped, and I don't know why, because it's just one of those weird things that's just sort of.
Well, you have been busy, like moving.
I have been busy. But I forever would be just walking the dog, and I'd like listen to a podcast that's like 45 minutes long. And one of my favourites is Ed Gamble and James Acaster. Off Menu, and I absolutely love that part. And I'll be walking the dogs, just like wetting myself laughing with whatever guest they've got on. People must think I'm mad.
I've never heard of them.
Fantastic! They're comedians, but they do. It's called Off Menu, and it's all about. It's just they have a different guest every podcast. They come in and it's like an imaginary restaurant, and they have to pick their starter, main, dessert, and a drink. And then they talk about their food choices, and they talk about what projects they're working on and stuff. But some of them, like there's one with Greg Davies, and it's just I literally was wetting myself. And Tom Davies as well. Maybe it's a Davies thing. They're just funny. But But I love that podcast, and they've won so many awards. They're just, it's huge. It's been going for about 3 years now, I think 4 years, and it is amazing. Wow. But there's just, I think, and this is a lovely thing with podcast, is that there's just so much variety, and there's like, you know, there's comedy, there's like current affairs, there's vocational stuff like, you know, like my podcast. And then there's like ones on every subject you can think about. And it's like, and all you got to do is just stick it on your phone, stick it in your car and link it up, and off you go.
I mean, we've all become, since online learning really exploded over lockdown, because we had no other way to learn, communicate, or actually we could communicate through social media, but it was the perfect opportunity to geek out on our businesses, work on our businesses. And we all know that massively exploded, and hence why I launched a membership, plenty of other memberships out there. And everyone realized the importance of working on the business as much as being in it. And in some ways, definitely, it's more important to be there than in labor.
Yes.
So in the business. So when I started listening to podcasts, when I started doing online courses and delivering online courses, and I was actually learning myself how to take that experience as an educator from that old school. I mean, it's not old school because we still do it now, but you know, that traditional framework of standing in front of people, in front of a classroom. So then adapting that into in front of a few hundred people on a Zoom. And then obviously recording digital assets. Now, I know there are some people that in my own suite of courses and digital assets, we have obviously the videos where you can sit and watch, and you've got the supporting documents like the downloads, workbooks, manuals, that kind of thing. And then you can also extract the audio. And I know some of them that have bought a course, haven't watched me, they've extracted the audio. And their preferred style of learning is to listen and to not watch or see. And so again, I'm kind of bridging between podcasts and the way that we have to do our CPD, you know, our learning, our continuous development in this career path.
And I think as well is like, you know, you and I, well, you were on Clubhouse an awful lot more than I was, but I was on there a fair amount. And that whole audio thing, it's just so easy. I mean, I know so often on a Saturday afternoon, I'd be popping down to Sainsbury's, and there'd be like, and Debbie Lewis would be doing a Clubhouse on a Saturday afternoon. And I'd quite often be sat in the car in the audience and just sort of, and I wouldn't want to drive because I wanted to say something, so I'd have to sit in the car. But it just makes you, it gives you connection in a different way, doesn't it? I think, and especially when you can interact like you can on Clubhouse. And I actually do sometimes quite miss Clubhouse because I think most of us are off it now, and it doesn't, nobody really goes on it. And it's such a shame because it really is massively a good platform. And maybe I should take
it's such a shame what's gone on with Clubhouse. I was a very, very early adopter. I think I was the third in our industry in the UK on the platform, which is why I was so quick to get the Beauty Boss Club, which I think hit about just under 5,000 members. It was the biggest club on Clubhouse for our niche. And I was very consistent every single day. It was part of my marketing plan. It became part of growth for the beauty business, for the Beauty Boss company. So I was there every single day. In fact, to try and give myself boundaries so the first month, we're all dead excited and we're all listening to each other and we're all connecting and we're all collaborating, we're all pitching and it was a massive pitch fest. And then I thought, right, how are we going to turn this into a thing where we're not living on this platform?
Because it got quite addictive.
It got addictive. So then I started naming our rooms. This is before we got given the club. I started naming the rooms the 40-minute club before it was a Beauty Boss venture. And I thought that was my way of saying we're here for 40 minutes. And then we've got a life we've got kids to feed. We've got showers to take, we've got, lives to live. So I called it the 40-minute club. And most of the time, actually, if I'm honest, we went over. But by the time we got to that hour, it was like, come on, we've hit the 40 minutes. We're all going to go off now. And actually, it was through growing on that audio platform that told me that there was a demand to launch a podcast. I genuinely don't think so. If I hadn't have been a clubber on Clubhouse, I would never have thought about launching a podcast.
No, and I think as well, I think it probably had quite a, I think I don't know if I can't remember now because that was in the January, wasn't it? I think Clubhouse started, and I think I was considering it and thinking, oh, is it something I could do? And I think probably it gave me that like push as well, because it means, you know, you can be out there, you don't have to be in front of a camera. And it makes, and I think as well, if people are considering doing it, you know, there's beauty, or beauty industry, hair industry, any of the stuff in salon, you've got like that whole consumer market you can hit massively. And I know there is a lot of beauty and hair ones out there that are consumer facing, but, you know, but why not have a podcast for your salon? You know, it is a bit techie, and you do have to have, like, you know, fancy, we don't have to have fancy microphones, you just have to have a microphone. But sometimes I just record straight onto my Mac. It's like, you know, I've got my nice mic sitting over in the corner, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can do it very, very simply. You can even do the podcast recording on your phone.
Yeah.
It doesn't have
and
to
I think that sometimes, again, is what stops us from getting there and switching it on and turning it on. And I think I went through a bit of that. I think because I'm so, because we hit all the touch points. We've launched the YouTube channel. It's new, but we've launched the YouTube channel. So really just to get a bit smarter with all the content we create, chop it up, chuck it on social media, so that I'm not feeling like a slave to social media, because we do sometimes feel like we're a slave to pressure. We've got to do Instagram, we've got to do Facebook, now we've got to do TikTok, and then there's LinkedIn, and then there's Snapchat if you're about that, and there's YouTube, and there's podcasts.
I know, where does it stop?
Where does it stop? I'm already unsubscribing for whatever the next platform is. Okay, I'm not doing it.
I'm not doing it.
We're not doing it. We resist. But when it comes to back to Clubhouse, because I think that was a genius. I mean, timing was everything. We were in a lockdown when it was the best way to communicate, and we got very tribal. We are very tribal. So we found our people, and we created our groups, and we had our little cliques and our little rooms and blah blah blah. I actually even started, because I came up with all sorts of initiatives through the years of Clubhouse. We did a book club, which is when we were on Clubhouse, but live on Facebook. And it was a hybrid of Facebook and Clubhouse. And I brought the two together. It was mental. And another little initiative I did was I asked people that I could see were regular people that showed up to the room, which was great. It showed me they found value. But I never heard them. They never raised their hand. So I'd speak to them privately and say, and this was the power again, it would allow you to cross-pollinate and then hit the DMs on their Instagram. So then you're nurturing and you're building your audience. And these, I'll be honest, most of these people have bought my courses. They're my members of my memberships. And so this is where my voice has turned into income, you know, and turned into revenue. And I would say, I launched a whole new thing, which was getting people up on the stage. And they would say, I'm not confident to get up on the stage. And I'd be like, you could be sat in your pants and go up on the stage. We won't know this. Like, you could be. I
was often in my pajamas on Clubhouse.
Yes, I totally miss
I'm often in my pajamas recording my podcast.
Yeah. We've got to have some perks, right? And those people that found the courage eventually to come up on the stage then went on to do their very first lives on Facebook, on very first lives on social. So it moved their confidence just up the little. We don't realize how it's all connected, really.
No, isn't. I can remember years ago. Well, actually, I don't know when it was. I think it might have been 2018, maybe. And I was, we were sort of coming up to launching my Nabuno thing back in its first tried attempt at being launched, just as COVID hit, which was nice. But in the months leading up to that, I was in Vegas, and I can remember I'd been doing like a little group of like a few of us that were like trying to get the braveness levels up enough to do lives. And I can remember being in Vegas and doing this live on the balcony of the Cosmopolitan Hotel, and just being so. And I was only doing it to a group of about 10 of us, but I remember being so terrified. And I was saying to you right before we went live this morning, I haven't done one for ages, and I still had that little bit of nerves and stuff, because it is a bit weird when you're going to be talking to whoever you don't even know who you're going to be talking to. It might be no one, it might be 1,000 people you don't know, do you? And like now, I don't know, I'm pretty much over it, but it is hard and learning that skill, because it is a skill of not being nervous and trying to get your point across and all of those kind of things. And I think Zoom has changed that massively, because we're all so used to being on camera now. We stopped, I used to spend ages looking, does my hair look like this, and is my makeup okay or whatever. And I think now, I think you're just so used to that kind of environment, or maybe it's just that we're used to that environment and everybody else isn't.
Yeah, it could be. But again, the power of the podcast is that you don't have to look a certain way. You don't have to sound a certain way. You can be sat in your pajamas like you do.
I do.
I mean, I just so let's talk about the tech part.
Yeah, okay.
And then we'll go over to the moolah.
Yeah, if only there was moolah there at the moment, I tell you. But there's a lot of reasons for having a podcast, and it isn't always it's not necessarily about the direct income from the podcast. So it's like, yeah, boom. So tech.
So
yeah,
tech.
I get my microphone.
So you mentioned that you felt that you had to go and do a course, which is fine, to find out how to connect, I guess, A to B, how to get from A to Z. And how did that look for you? Because I'm going to just talk about us as an industry right now.
Yeah.
We hate tech.
Yeah, we do hate tech. But you know what? The one thing I found on there was that there's lots of other industries that hate tech even more than we do.
Really?
Yeah. And you know what? And I think one of the really lovely things that I discovered in lockdown, and some of the things in the courses that I took, was a lot of the courses I took were not inside the industry. So I did things like how to launch a podcast, and I also did outside the industry stuff on how to launch online courses. And actually having that connection with people outside of our industry, it's really quite weird,
right?
Because we're so
different language.
Yeah. And it is, and initially I had that whole like, oh well, you know, like we're the stupid industry, like they're all like really sort of super corporate and all the rest of it. And initially I kept feeling like quite odd about being out there, because no one, and it was only me and my internal like rubbish in my head. But there's a lot of other industries out there that are equally as scared of the tech. And it's funny, I've just been on another course, and there was a lot of people in there. There was one person who, I can't remember what industry she was in. I think she might have been in counselling or something like that, some kind of like sort of mental health therapy stuff. And she wanted to do this podcast, and she was so scared to go and buy a microphone, absolutely terrified. Wow. And it's like, what do I buy? And she's going, and I know her pain, because I've gone through Amazon and tried to work out what one I want and bought one, and then realised I should have bought the other one that was a little bit more money. Yeah, so did that whole like, buy cheap, buy twice thing.
I was just going to say, isn't that what a lot of nail techs have done?
Yeah, absolutely. And because I think you don't know. You know, it's got amazing reviews and it says it's perfect for podcasting, but then when you get it and it isn't really, and you can't get your sound levels right and stuff, it's just maybe I don't know why it didn't work with me. But so I went out and bought my very nice mic, which I'll just grab and show you. So this is my very lovely, my Yeti.
Oh, you went for a Yeti. Yeah,
but it's a brilliant mic, and it does what it says on the tin, and it's very nice, and it does all the clever things it's supposed to do.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah. So in terms of investment, course is optional, but would you recommend for anyone who's going to be listening?
I think I would. And I mean, Lindsay Ann, she's really good. She explains it well. Her course, she does like entry level course, which is I think she's just had one running actually. She does like 5-day challenges and stuff, which is how I got introduced to it. And I think it's just nice, even doing like something like her little 5-day challenge, just so you kind of get your head around how it works, because I think, you know, understanding how to load up onto the Apple podcast platform and what categories you fall in and all that kind of stuff. And I'm still playing with that category thing, because there's nothing that fits us as usual. But there isn't a beauty or salon industry category. It's not there. So you have to kind of work out what you fit in.
Yeah.
And it's just
I guess we won't. I mean, we don't need to know all the answers at the beginning, do we? We don't. No. And again, I'm sure you can relay that back to your career as a nail professional. You know, we don't bounce out of class sculpting the most amazing nails that last an amazing 3 weeks. It just doesn't happen.
No.
So I get why you would go down the education route. And maybe had I have done a course, maybe I would have launched by now. But then saying that, I don't know how mental I've been with everything else. But what I'm saying is, I think it comes back to the power of education and why we need education in our lives, regardless whether it's in industry, out of industry. Yeah. Listen,
I think there's that whole thing, isn't there? Is that I can remember this funny enough, listening to a podcast where Jonathan, I can't think what his J is. He goes by JC, I think, and he's the owner of Kajabi. And he was saying this whole thing around that, you know, you can't know everything, but if you don't know enough to start, there's all this free information out there, And I think, and my podcast is free. You don't have to pay to listen to it. And there's all this free information out there that all of us put out, digital assets that are out there as lead magnets and all that kind of stuff, that there is lots of free entry level information that you can get. And it gives you that start, but to get the actual information that's going to help you and speed you up, everything's out there, but you've got to go research it, digest it, and go practice and learn. And I found it much easier to get that information from somebody that's already done it and can put it on a sheet of paper that I can follow.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, that was the easiest way for me to do it. And it was still challenging, even just trying to get the picture, like your podcast image that you have for Apple, because it has to be so many pixels and it really does get technical. But once you've got it, it's fine.
Done.
But it's but if you don't know it's got to be that many pixels, then you've had it.
Yeah.
And you'll be there for days trying to make it work.
So your investment, course, microphone?
Probably. I think everything I spent to make it work was probably, I can't even think how much I paid for the course now. I think it probably was about £1,000 for everything, I reckon, around about that. But
and then once it starts compounding and it starts monetizing, then that initial investment to me doesn't sound like a lot.
Well, no. And the idea, for me, the idea of the podcast is, and I don't charge for it, and it's there, but it's there as like part of my platform, and it brings people into my world. And then, long term, the monetization comes from it as a longer term thing. It isn't about, it's just there as a connection method, really, more than anything.
Definitely. It's also, I think, again, if we just bring it to business, I love bringing it back to business. It's a little bit of reverse engineering, because the people that are going to tune into your podcast regularly, when they get to the little adverts in between the conversations and the little sponsor adverts and jingles that start creeping in, that subliminal message, I can never say that word, subliminal message, that one. They are basically, whether they realize it, they're moving further and further and further into your ecosystem. They'll probably eventually sign up to your mailing list, hit follow on your socials, go to your website through a call to action, buy one of your courses, or sign up to something. So like what we understand now with the behavior of our clients, even that come to our salons, they don't just come in, trust everything we say in the first time they meet us and buy everything from us and book everything. They have to go through a journey of really it's that whole know, like, and trust again.
Absolutely. And
I think when you are listening to someone's voice, I think from that H to H level, from that human to human place, we instantly decide whether we like the sound of them or not. And then we get to figure out whether we trust them through how they position themselves through their podcast, through talking about their history. I'm sure with your, when I had a salon, when I was this, when I
know, yes, I was recording yesterday, and I must have said in this one episode about 8 times, when I had my salon.
Yeah.
But it is, and in the end I was like, I'm really sorry that I keep bringing it up, but I did used to have a salon, and it was award-winning kind of thing, but it does, it gives you that credibility because you have been there. And and like I've done mobile. I've worked self-employed in someone else's salon. I've worked in my own home cabin. I've had my salon and been award-winning. And now I've got my little building that's going to be opening at some point up here, just so, and I still keep thinking I'm mad. Why am I doing this? but it's kind of there now. And
it's nice. It's nice.
It's all right.
Going.
I can keep practicing painting nails.
Yeah. But like what you've just said, you've hit all the models. You've done all the different business models with your skills. So someone will listen to your podcast and your story and be massively motivated by that and be like, maybe I thought about going mobile. Maybe I'll try mobile now. And you don't know who's listening or what impact that has on them.
Absolutely. And I think it is, just the, it's funny, actually, I was talking with someone this morning about doing some work with them on award schemes and stuff. And it isn't just all that, I've been in Scratch Stars so many times. I've been a finalist so many times, and I've then won a couple of their lovely awards, and I've judged for them. And so I kind of know that system inside out and backwards, really. And just having that knowledge of what a quality award scheme looks like, as opposed to some of the less.
Oh my God. I know this is not about podcast, but let's just say, pause the podcast a minute, convo. awards. What is going on? Why is every other post someone's winning an award? And I'm like, what award is this now?
Yeah,
I know. Win an award for the person who can eat the biggest pizza the fastest, because I'll probably win that one. Like,
yeah, I know. There's a lot of them out there, isn't there? And it's how credible they all are. But it's yeah. So, but but the podcast, you can share all of that information. I mean, I did do a whole podcast episode, maybe even a couple last year, about awards and entering awards, because people just enter and don't think about what they're writing on their phone. And as a judge, you sit there thinking like, come on.
Yeah.
So, but all of those things that, I mean, it's great because I get the opportunity to, like, when something drives me mad in industry, I can just jump on my podcast and just go, really?
Yeah. I love that. And you'll be speaking to a certain type of person that will really resonate and then lean into you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. But yeah,
it's very difficult because and also I think the scariest thing about doing the podcast is that whole sort of putting your head up above the parapet, which is, the people's fear of doing lives. It's people's fear of, sending out something to clients or putting your prices up, that whole thing of like where you're raising your head up that someone can shoot you down. And
also people enter hoping to win, and obviously there can only be one winner. So it's obviously not going to be a nice feeling to not win, but I think I'd like to think we are of a type of class that if we don't win, we're still genuinely very happy for the person that's won across the table. Yeah. I've been to many of those scratch awards, and I used to send my head of education to be the judges on my behalf, and I am so actually reduced to tears. I'm sure you've been the same, Sue, when you have seen some girl get up on that stage and she's crying because she cannot believe she's won that award. It reduces us to tears. We are genuinely so happy for them.
I think, anything where you raise your visibility, and I think, and the visibility, I think, when you're podcasting, you do the stuff that you do, it's all about raising visibility. And whether you do that as a industry expert, or whether you do that as a salon owner or any kind of business owner, academy owner, whatever you are, whenever you need to raise your visibility, it's scary. And trying to do it in the right way, and protect yourself, because it is, it can be hard, can't it, being like the face of something.
It's funny because I have to be, again, this is me I have to be true to myself here. I've never felt that.
No.
And I've had so many conversations in the past, because I feel like I don't share that very often, that it's never bothered me, because I don't want it to go out there looking like I'm either arrogant or I'm lying. Oh, well, she must have. I genuinely can't remember a time I've given a shit. And I have to be honest.
So good. It's refreshing.
Well, I'll be honest, Sue, because I've had genuine conversations with my own team about it. I think it's, again, like everything, it stems from childhood. So I've got 8 brothers.
Yeah.
I am the second eldest. So I've got 8 brothers, 2 sisters. So I've come from a very male energy and male environment. And my dad being Arabic, being half Syrian, they don't give a shit, those Arabs.
No,
they just don't. I think I was born with that, which is why I have never fretted to go live, to go on a stage. I don't care if anyone hates me. I hate them back. I don't care. And it's not something I've grown into. I wish I could say that I had, because I would feel like I am part of so many more people in our industry say it, and I'd love to get involved in that conversation. But I don't know where it's come from, but I know it exists, which is why in my teacher training course, I have a whole module dedicated to public speaking.
Yeah.
Because I know where I've been teaching people how to teach for 10 years, I know the first place they fall flat on their face.
Yeah.
And it's not doing the skill, they can do it in their sleep. It's getting up and talking about it.
And as well, and so much of it, I can remember years and years ago, I had to do, I think it was when I was at college actually doing my holistics, and we had to stand up and do however long, 20-minute presentation. I can't remember what it was. And I can remember I was terrified. It was back in 2004. And my sister she's in corporate world, and she does public speaking all the time. And I can remember just saying to her, like, I'm going to stand up in front of this class of people and talk. and it's terrible, because I'm a great talker. Anyone that knows me knows I can go on and on and
you
on.
Can. You need to leverage that.
And so she said to me, like, the biggest thing is you've got to breathe.
Yeah.
And I think it's something, and it's something I'm really, really aware of on the podcast, is you can hear if I'm not breathing, you can really hear it.
Yeah.
And or even when I am breathing, sometimes you can hear it. I have to cut those out sometimes when you go. But it's because you haven't breathed. And so all of a sudden you do that intake. And I think, you know, controlling the breath when you're public speaking, and it is, and especially on the podcast and doing things like this, you have got to breathe. Because if you don't, or your voice gets stuck and it doesn't work. And it's challenging. But I think, you know, you come from a background where probably if you with that many boys around, you've had to kind of
be heard.
Had to man up.
Be heard. I need to be heard. And I'm only little. So the mouth had to make up for it, you know?
Yeah. but I think that, you know, we really, really do need to, as an industry, recognize, you know, we sit talking to our clients all day and we don't bat an eyelid at sitting talking to our clients all day and telling them what they need to do, what they need to know, what they need to buy. If you do retail and you're good at that side of things too, because a lot of our industry don't like that bit, do they?
No.
But, you know, but we do sit talking and all it is just upping it a little bit and just doing it to a few more people.
Yeah, I know, absolutely.
And not thinking about it. Like now, when I do the podcast, I don't think about it. I had I found a picture of some really lovely therapist. I don't know who she is. I've got no idea. But I had my little ideal client person that was sat in front of me the first sort of like season of the podcast. And so I just sat talking to her because, you know.
Oh my God, I love that little hat.
Yeah. But when you're doing that, and she was like stuck on my wall. So every time I was recording, she was the person that I wanted to talk to, because especially the first season was very much about careers and how you get into the industry and what kind of job roles there are and all that kind of stuff. Because I think our colleges kind of fall a little bit short on that sometimes. And it, you know, they don't get time. Their curriculum's so fixed. And they don't get time to go into the depth of that.
They are under pressure, but that also leaves then space for people like you to come along and fill the gaps.
This is it. And so like that whole, most of the first season, bar the interviews, is all about career pathways and just giving people a little bit of enlightenment as to, you know, you don't have to go and own your own salon the second you leave college or be self-employed the second you leave college. One of my biggest regrets is that I came into this so late, because I wanted to do this for a living when I left school. But having my now husband as my boyfriend when I was leaving school at age 15, there was many other things I wanted to do other than go to college for 2 years. And my mum was like, no, go to type, you'll never be without a job and all that stuff. And I ended up not doing it. But my dream at sort of age 14, early 15 was that I was going to go and, you know, one of our neighbours worked as a hairdresser. She did hair and beauty at college. And she went off and she worked in Bermuda. And she was like my role model.
Right.
And all through like the late 70s and early 80s, I'm going to be like Alison, I'm going to go and work in Bermuda. And that was my dream. And like now to have got to the age I am and have never done that international working, I still kind of hanker after it. And when we were trying to move, I kept saying to Trev, do you reckon we could just go and work on a cruise ship? Look, you know, you go and do all the maintenance stuff and I'll go and work in the salon. Although I know, I mean, it is such hard work. But I'd just love to go and do something like that still.
Yeah, still, why not?
Yeah,
why not? Who knows? Let's see. You might be recording podcasts in the middle of the ocean somewhere.
I know. In September, I'm going, and I keep not talking about it because I keep thinking it's not actually real, but it is real. And in September, I'm going to Costa Rica on my own. And I'm going to volunteer at a turtle sanctuary.
Oh my God, I know this because I read your post whenever you posted it, and I think I even commented.
I know, and I keep not talking about it, but it's just, I'm so excited. I just keep having to like have a little like turtles.
But you know what though? That's what life is about, you know.
Yeah.
And I know that if you listen to any of my stuff, I'm always saying to people that life is by design. Like we go into business, whether it's a salon, whether it's a coffee shop, whether it's a restaurant, whatever. We go into business because we expect and we want a certain type of lifestyle, and that needs funding.
Yeah.
And so by working with our skills in such a way that allows us to remove ourselves from the nail desk or from the couch, the chair, whatever, the salon floor, and still have money coming in, like a podcast, like all the other ways that we can generate multiple streams of income now, it's got to funnel towards the bigger picture. And in your case, it's going to Costa Rica and hanging out with turtles. Yes. I think it's bloody amazing.
I know.
I'm so excited.
I've wanted to do it for so long. And so I'm going.
Stalking your stories and everything at that point, because I think you will see your visibility go through the roof. You know this.
And it's really hard because one of the places I'm staying is like they actually they're like a hotel scheme that's kind of for backpackers and people that work remotely. And I've just had an email through from them. They're doing like a remote year, so you can go and work in their hotels all around. A lot of it is Central America and South America, and you can just go and rock up and just stay there for a month. It's quite reasonably priced. They've got like full working suites there, so you can just like plug your Mac in or plug your laptop in, and off you go, and you can just work remotely from Costa Rica.
You'll be storytelling, you'll be documenting, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. Yeah. When do you go?
I fly on the 10th of September.
This year?
Mm-hmm.
And then how long are you there for?
I'm at the Turtle Sanctuary for a week, and then I'm going into the Cloud Forest for 2 nights and going.
So you're doing it. You're doing it. It's what it's all about. Yeah.
Very, very exciting.
So going back to the podcast,
we're supposed to be talking about the podcast.
Oh no, it's amazing. It's all connected. I was just going to say, for anyone who wants to go down the launch of their own podcast, the launch of their own anything, as in like the next chapter, the next way to make money with their skills, the next way that they leverage. I love that word, leverage. It's my favorite word. What happens when they want to take the holidays, when they want to go and do something like that? And does everything get put on pause?
Wonderful thing. Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, does everything get put on pause?
No, it doesn't have to, because I'm going away Saturday, and I've just recorded and I've just scheduled the next 3 episodes, I think. So yeah, you just got to be a bit ahead of the game.
Yeah,
it's like if you're going on holiday, you'd schedule all your Facebook posts for your salon, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
and it's no different. And it is, and knowing I was coming on to do this art, because I've been so so off my visibility for months, and the last episode that went out was in December, and I kept thinking, I must do an episode, and all of a sudden it's like nearly April, and it's like I hadn't done an episode. And then knowing I was coming on here, thought, I really probably ought to get back to it. But
you know what though, visibility is, we know how vital it is. I have also been a victim of such a dramatic word, but it is it's the best word I can think of right now, where I had been so busy doing whatever I was doing in the back end. And I know so many business owners in our industry will relate to this. We are so busy doing it, being the thing, that we've got no bloody time to show up and tell people about it.
Yeah.
And then what happens is we then get penalized. We get put in the naughty corner. Like, you haven't been showing up, so off you go, says the algorithm. And then we're like, we're back. And then it's like, okay, half the people can see us now. And that's actually what's been happening in this very group, in the Beauty Boss community. I stopped showing up, getting busy with what I was making, massive life-changing decisions with creative, doing shows again, giving the show with my distributor hat on, giving that a whirl again, recruiting new educators, but they're not just educators now, they're creators now because of the way the world's changed. So now they are educators. I've created a whole thing.
New word.
Yeah, create a whole thing. And so all of that mapping out, strategizing, working, getting offices, building teams, bringing 2 teams together, and all of the things stops me from coming up here and telling people. So visibility, I definitely hear you. hear you.
And it's really hard. Show up. I think over the last 18 months, or even probably the last few years, I've kind of come to the realization is like, where have the last few years gone? Because it's just like that pandemic, 3-year window, the pandemic has sort of shot down into those 3 years have kind of vanished. But all through that time, I was so busy and doing so much, and doing the podcast and I've been trying to sort out like my Nabuno platform thing. I've been trying to do that 5 years, and it's so like we've been working on that solidly since September. And so that's why I kind of had my head down so much, because you've got so many other things that are taking your focus and trying to find. And the thing is, in the podcast, like yesterday, I recorded 2 episodes and did all the stuff I need to do for them. But it's still, even though like each episode is only 35 minutes, it takes time. And I think I probably spent about 5 or 6 hours doing that. And so
that'll be editing, because that's like
and although I do kind of edit as I go, but you've still got to do a bit of playback, and you've got to add your intros and your outros on, and then you've got to go on your podcast platform and load it and do all the artwork and stuff, and it does take up your time. So, and to do that every week, and it is one of the biggest things that you're taught when you do I think in every podcast course tries to tell you to do it, is to do batching. And you sit and record for 1 day a month, then you do another day of editing for the month, and then you do another day of scheduling, and then that's it, you're done for the month. But my life's not like that.
Yeah.
And it's so it does take time, and especially if it's interviews, then then you've got to work to someone else's diary quite often. You've got to then you've got to do the video editing. And I have learned now, because I used to do audio editing and then I'd do the video editing, so then they'd be slightly different. And then I realized last year that if I just actually edit the video, I can then extract the audio afterwards.
Well,
but you live and learn. It was like one of those like, oh my God moments when I realized,
learning. I get that. When it comes to the podcast, like the jingles, and actually the quality of the mic as well. So these are all the little things that have stopped me. It's like, okay, the jingle, and then you listen to the little music, like the little intro music. Do you have an intro piece? No intro piece. Okay, when we start interviewing people, I know I've got a good mic. What if they've got a rubbish mic and they compromise the quality of my podcast? Because we know quality. I've switched off people's podcasts from the shitty quality. Have you?
They have. There are some bad ones, and I like having intro music, but you've got to make sure you've got the right license free, like that you've paid for your licensing and you paid for commercial use and all that kind of stuff. I think I paid about £40 or £50 for the piece of music I use on mine. And then I've got like 3 different versions of it. So I've got a short form, a medium form, and the full version that's 3 minutes if I wanted to have 3 minutes of music. But so there is all of those bits. And initially just trying to work out how to layer the music with me talking over it and stuff. I mean, it's the silly stuff like that it took me ages. In the first episode, if you listen to it, and even I think a little bit of the first season, and then a little bit of the second season, it took me so long to work out how to do that smoothly, because I just couldn't get it. And I just kept getting this background hiss, and it was driving me insane. But I couldn't make it. I kept redoing it.
Well, what was it? Was it your first mic?
It was the microphone.
Right. Interference.
As soon as I changed microphones, it stopped.
So quality again. So back that interference.
Interesting.
Interesting.
And I did start having like little like sort of tinkly noises and stuff in between, like if there was a definite cut in what I was talking about, I kept having like transitional music, and then you just start, no, actually I'm not going to do that. You just start getting weird noises everywhere. And so I just have like my intro music and my outro music that I kind of talk over, and and that's it really. It's like,
that's fine.
The thing is that now I've done, I think I've just recorded episode 48, I think it is. So I'm quite a way into it now.
Yeah, you are. So are you?
And I'm quite pleased. I've beaten like Ryan and Holly, because I was checking theirs out yesterday, because I needed to check something that I know that they'd been on theirs, and I think they only had 44 episodes. So I'm like, I've surpassed them. Like little
well, that actually takes me on to the next part of our convo. So they stopped recording podcasts, I was informed, because we're in the same town, you see. So I went over to the Podcast Labs, which is where we have a stunning studio locally that does it all for you.
Nice.
I decided to not go with them because I have everyone in my own offices employed, whereas they don't. They do a lot of outsourcing. They don't have an office. They don't, So I see why they went with that company, and I chose to not. However, the moment their sponsor had stopped sponsoring, they stopped recording.
Oh, right.
So with your 48 episodes now, are you any closer to a sponsor yet? Have you, I know that you went.
You know what? I've to be really honest, I keep thinking I really must do that. But it's just, then who, and I don't know. And I just keep not getting to it. Because the thing is that then I feel that there's an element of, if I've got a sponsor, then I've got to behave appropriately and say appropriate things. And I'd rather just be free and be able to say what I want to say, and not be reliant on somebody funding it. Because the thing is that realistically it costs me, I think, about £15 a month to host it on the platform. So it doesn't cost me a lot of money, like the initial, like doing my course and the setup and stuff costs money, but I do all my own editing, because it's quite easy. You don't have, you don't have to have a degree in editing.
No.
And
apps, especially with all the apps that are out there now, we're all editing our reels, we're all editing and chopping up this and chopping up that.
It isn't that difficult, really. even editing the videos. It's not that, literally you just got to do control whatever it is on your computer to cut it again and delete. And it isn't that hard.
Yeah.
So it can be time consuming if you've got to re-listen to it all, because if you've got an hour and a half interview, you might have to go back and listen to that and chop. And so that can take probably like 2 to 3 hours to do. But it doesn't really cost you. It costs you your time if you're doing it yourself, and it doesn't really cost that much to host it. And it can cost less. It just depends on the length of episodes and stuff that you want to do. Each platform charges differently.
That was another part that I came to a block with my own strategy. Am I going to be the 40-minute podcaster? Am I going to be the 10-minute podcaster? Can we be both?
Yeah.
All I can say at this point as a consumer, because I haven't launched mine yet, hopefully April, but probably May, if I'm being really honest with myself. So as a listener, I do the long form, as in like some of yours, some of Stephen Bartlett's, some of them can go on for a while. They're my car ones. Then I have ones that I know if I'm about to start dinner, I'll go and get my AirPods, and whilst I'm chopping an onion or two, I'll listen to a 10-minute podcast.
Yeah.
I've also got the habit that I'll grab my AirPods when I'm about to brush my teeth in the morning. It's not actually for a podcast, this little habit of mine, this little ritual. I listen to a song, and I don't stop squatting, and I don't turn off my electric toothbrush until the 3-minute song has ended. So that's my 3-minute thing. Then I have my 10-minute onion thing, and then I have my car thing. They are my behaviors as a consumer, knowing I have to give myself these routines so I can listen, so I can be committed to the podcast world, because I like to listen. And to me, I think it's like the ultimate multitasker.
Yeah.
The ultimate way to multitask.
Yeah, because you can, if you just stick those headphones in, you can be doing anything and listen to a podcast.
Yeah.
But you can't, it's like you were saying about having like your stuff on YouTube, and all of my interviews, because I record them on Zoom, the interviews go up onto my YouTube channel. And so then you can watch. But I don't get as many watches on YouTube as I get listeners on the podcast.
There you go.
Because you can just carry on with your life and have it going in the background. And even you probably could sleep with it and just have that whole subliminal learning.
Yeah. And this is again where I think we missed the trick as the industry now. Let's go back to when YouTube was launched, right? And some of those YouTube channels out there by Nail Techs right here in the UK, wow, they have millions of followers.
Yeah.
And if they were to put that same effort or that tweaked strategy from their YouTube into, obviously you can't extract old YouTube. I'm just thinking you can't extract old YouTube content if you're actually talking and describing what you're doing. If you can't see it on a podcast, it's not really going to land the same way. But again, if they're using that platform to grow their authority, their expertise, their audience, which will then funnel into sales, I see it's a lot easier on podcasting than YouTube. So yeah.
The thing is, and there's so much space. I can't remember all the figures now, but there is millions of podcasts now. And I know when I started doing it, there was still there's something like potential of like so many billions of listeners around the world. And actually you can only hit so many with the number of podcasts at the moment. And so the space in that market is absolutely vast.
Huge.
And people don't, I don't know. I mean, some people I know have never even listened to a podcast. They don't even know what it is.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's been around for years. I mean, I think I first started listening to podcasts probably not long, but I think probably not long after I got my first Apple phone, because they were on there. Yeah. And I used to listen to, I do love a comedy podcast. And I used to listen to a Richard Herring podcast called As It Occurs to Me, which is very good if you want to listen to a comedy podcast. But I used to listen to that. And I think that was back in about 2008, 2009.
But you're right. There's still so many people that have never heard of what a podcast is. How do they get on a podcast? How do they find it in their phone? Blows my mind, actually. But again, like you just said, huge space there, huge room for growth, for visibility, to still be seen as one of the new early adopters.
And I think, and I know there's another couple of companies or businesses in the industry. Sammy McDonald's just launched her podcast. Laura McBride's just launched a podcast. And they were, and it's really funny because like when you see it, you're like, oh, like is it going to be like same as mine? And it's not going to be, because they're their own personalities. but it's sort of interesting to watch the dynamics of how they're doing it.
Yeah.
And already I think it's really hard. When I was having a chat with Ryan actually at PB, and he was saying, because Holly's going to come on and have a chat with me, and we were sort of just doing a bit of organising around it, and he's like, you're still going then? So I was like, yeah. And he's like, it's like, it's a hard, anyway, we were sort of talking about
shame they gave up.
yeah,
it's
because they've got so much value to give. They, they're all of, I mean, I used to be a member of Gold Club, like when I had my salon, and the value that they have is amazing. And so we were chatting around, having Holly on, and I said, I've not been recording for months, so I've really got to start recording again.
Yeah.
And we were just discussing how hard it is to be consistent with it. I think because it's quite time consuming when you're in that pattern of doing your episodes all the time, it is quite time consuming. But
I think that's why I've not launched yet. I think that's why I've not launched yet.
Maybe just do the 10-minute ones.
Yeah. And again, like, it's that commitment. And if you are busy, like you are, they are, I am, with other projects and other things, then you don't want to let your audience down, and you don't want to resent the channel. You don't want to start feeling like, oh, got to do a bloody podcast again. You don't want to be that person. And I was worried to be that person, so I'd rather wait until it all
all of mine, because I kind of, when I first started, I did envisage that I'd just be doing it forever, and I wouldn't ever have a break. It'd just be, I'd be batching regularly and doing all that stuff and being like the perfect podcaster, but that isn't me. So what's happened is it's kind of hit points where I've just gone, I'm kind of not tired and bored of doing it, but I'm just kind of in a place where I can't focus on it. And so I've like recorded a few episodes ahead, and then I haven't had chance to get back and do the next lot. And so then because I haven't done it, then I've got like a get out. So then I've just created seasons.
Yeah. That's the Netflix model. That's fine.
And as well, the one thing that I like about the podcast is, and I suppose it's very similar to YouTube, is that it's there for posterity. You just leave it there.
Yeah.
And so people, and whether people, I know with like some of the podcasts I listen to at the moment, I've probably got like about 30 episodes to listen to, because I pick up, I mean, I haven't listened to some for a long time. So I know that when I go back in, I've got hours and hours and hours of listening to do. And so I know people will behave that way with my podcast, and they'll listen to one, they might miss a few because that isn't relevant to them. So they'll wait until something's relevant, and then they'll click back in on their subscription again.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of there all the time. And it is, and not every episode I do is going to be of interest to people. And initially I was trying to make it appeal to everybody, and now I think over the time I've done it, I've got enough of a back catalogue there now that there's probably something for everybody in the industry, and they'll pick it, and I can see on my analytics that there's certain episodes where it is something that more people enjoy, and the people prefer the interviews. Let's face it, is always like, it's much nicer than just listening to my voice.
A two-way thing. Yeah,
that's it. But it's more about that humanity and that connection again. And having two people talking and passing the time of day, and talking. And I think the nice thing is, like, when I had you on, we were we chat about our histories, and we chat like we have today. We talk about all those other things that make us who we are.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what people connect to, really. And like now, like my next couple of episodes are probably actually really boring to some people, because it's all about SWOT analysis and SMART goals. But it's an important part of what we do. And I talk about on there, like especially with the SWOT analysis, is when I was opening my salon back and looking into doing it all in 2010 and opening in 2011, I was doing SWOT analysis without even realizing I was doing it.
Yeah.
Because I come from a place where I kind of had learnt that stuff subconsciously. I don't know where, just over my years of whatever I'd been doing in my career before that.
Yeah.
And then when I started reading about SWOT analysis, I was like, oh, yeah, I do that.
Yeah. It's funny, actually. I love that line, because that's what I say when we started the whole Beauty Boss HQ with the mentoring. And then it really came to light when you actually look what a mentor is. And I was like, oh, I was mentoring before I even started a mentoring company. Like, But
it is weird, isn't it? But all that history that we have of all of the skills that we've acquired, and I think and there's a lot of what I love about what I do, and people like yourself who we've all got skills that we've acquired over decades and decades, and whether it's in industry or out of industry, it's all transferable. And we all need to recognize that, you know, when we are going to start a new journey, you know, even doing the podcast, you know, I didn't really know anything that I was doing. I had no idea what I was doing. So I went off and got a little bit of knowledge. But in actual fact, I did already have so many transferable skills because I was, you know, I've been teaching for years. So therefore, I am okay standing up and having a chat and talking to people about what I know.
Yeah.
And, you know, so just, and it wasn't very much. I didn't have a lot of transferable skills into the podcast world, but, you know, I know how to turn a computer on.
You know how to talk?
I know how to talk. I'm very good at that.
Well, it's the ultimate leverage. If you're okay with talking, then that's, it's a podcast.
It's just like, And I just really hope that, you know, I mean, I know like the feedback I have from people that do listen to it, you know, I think everybody kind of enjoys little bits and pieces of it. And you're not as I say, you're not going to love every episode because not every episode is meant for you. Yeah. But there'll always be something on there that is of interest.
Thank you so much, Sue. I think this episode here, which will be loaded onto our YouTube and then all our mailing list will get to hear about it and stuff. Because again, just from the topic, you know, if anyone has ever considered launching a podcast of their own to share their information and potentially lead back into income, it could be selling a course, selling a product, getting a new bum on the seat. Or if it's just for them to be a listener, they're like, well, you've said so many people that still don't know what is a podcast? I can listen as I'm driving. I can do it as I'm cutting my wedge.
And I think everybody, and I think if there's also a misunderstanding that I think a lot of people think you have to listen to podcasts because originally it was an Apple thing. And that's where it came from, that you have to be an Apple device to listen to them. But it's on Spotify, it's on Google, it is everywhere. And, you know, I'd love to be on BBC Sounds, but I think that's quite shut down and restricted to BBC things. Because I have looked into that. But you know, you can listen anywhere. There's so many different platforms. I can't remember all of them now. There's lots of very small platforms. But you know, there's Brené Brown, who's, I don't know, do you know Brené Brown? No. She's an amazing. She's actually a professor of like emotions and stuff. She's a really interesting lady. But she's got a podcast. I was trying to find it yesterday, and she's not even on Apple. She's just on Spotify.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. Because you would think like the Holy Grail was Apple.
Yeah, because it is. And that's where it all started. So everybody wants to be on Apple and they want to be at the top of the Apple charts. But it's not.
That's one thing I don't get. It's the same sort of thing when you see someone launch. That's another thing.
I just on Amazon.
Launch a book and then it's a bestseller. How can everybody be a bloody bestseller?
I don't know. I think it comes down to, my understanding of the book thing is that you've got to get as many people on there to buy that book on that first day. And I think that podcasting, because I know when I did all my course, a lot of it is about, you know, you've got to have your podcast launch team and
like momentum,
and they've got to be sharing it. And it's literally to get that massive swell on that first week. And which I didn't achieve that. I just decided, you know, it'll be what it's going to be. If I, you know, in the niche that we're in and with what I'm talking about, it is going to be so hard, you know, to wipe off the top of like the business #1 podcast is not going to happen. You know, when you've got people like Stephen Bartlett, you know, and I'm up against him, you know, be realistic. You know, I wonder if even you could do that, Layla.
No,
you know?
And I wouldn't even look to try. That wouldn't even be part of my show.
No, this is it. And so for me, being like, you know, the #1 podcast, you know, and it is, and Adam's been doing this for so long and he does it so well. And
I have to listen to his.
You know, it's called The Beauty.
No, I know what it is because I saw him mention it once in the Facebook group, and I did listen to one in the lockdown before I came back to the UK when I was in Spain. And I don't know why I didn't listen to any more. I don't know what the disconnect there was, because it was very good. If I remember rightly, I liked it.
I know. I don't know. But it's like, you know, what Adam does, he does brilliantly. And I've been a listener of his podcast for a really long time. And he's probably one of the things that inspired me to do it, because, you know, but he comes, you know, like everything, you know, we all come at it from a different angle, don't we? And like, there's space for everybody, and especially podcasting.
I don't know anything about him. Is he an ex-hairdresser?
No, he's the chair of the UK Spa Association. Did you know what? And I don't actually, I know. I don't actually know his background into our industry. I'm not quite sure, but he's very, very good at the business side of it. getting people.
That's what's needed, to be fair. So
yeah, this is it. And I think, you know, that's what I used to listen to him for. And he's just very, very good at what he does. And so, yes, he probably inspired me into sort of thinking, yeah, I could do this. And at the time, there wasn't really, I think there's a couple of other industry based rather than consumer based ones, but all of them are quite different. And no,
I haven't, other than yours, I'll be honest, I haven't leaned into any.
No.
I think most of them that I might have in my library are in America.
Yeah.
They're all like Lash Boss and very American.
Yeah.
I have to be careful at this point because I'm partnered with some of my brands.
Yeah.
But not my bag, put it that way. Yeah. Like when you have to do, when that's part of your everyday job, it's like, switch off.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not really into the industry ones, I have to say, apart from, like I say, genuinely, I listened to yours and I left a review. And I'd only have done that if I'm a very genuine person. If I don't, if it's not worth my time to write a review, I won't write a review. Like we're all busy with our own shit going on. But no, thank you so much for spending the last hour. Do you know what?
I know it's ages, and I'm going to have to disappear because I've got a haircut at 11:30.
We did an hour and 20 minutes.
I know.
We can talk. That's why we're both destined to be amazing podcasters.
Indeed.
Thank you, Sue.
That's okay.
You take care.
I will do, and thank you very much for having me. And I better leg it off to the hairdressers now.
Yeah, you go off to the hairdressers. Take care. Thank you.
See you later, Layla. Bye.
I hope you ladies and gents found that really helpful. You will find this available over in our YouTube channel because we have launched a new YouTube channel. I'll be honest, we launched it, we chucked it up there. It was one of those, another thing that we were like, we'll get back to growing. But now in the way that we can repurpose our own content so that we are working smarter with our time and leveraging everything that we put out there on the internet for you guys. You can find this over there. You can obviously keep it here in the group, or we are keeping it here in the group. You can watch it as a replay. And I really hope if you are someone who A, is thinking about launching their own podcast, B, you have a story. And yes, there will be loads of people out there wanting to listen to your story. You will be inspiring somebody. You will be motivating somebody. Or if you just want to listen and you want to be that multitasker whilst you're chopping up your wax strips or turning on everything on in the salon, and you've just got that 10-15 minute silence before clients come in with all of their dramas and their issues and their stories, and you just want to have something for you that can elevate you and add value to your life, tune in to Sue's podcast. So anyway, I hope you found that really helpful. It's a very, very smart way to leverage your income, your information, in 2023 and generate a new stream of income from it. So anyway, I'm going to go. Lots of love to everybody and have an amazing Wednesday. Take care.